Hey guys, and welcome to the Love You Even More podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Brubaker. I'm a psychotherapist, actor, and Emmy Award winner. After 20 years in the entertainment industry as an artist and entrepreneur, I've gained a unique perspective into the minds of creatives and high achievers. Because let's be honest, I am one. In my work as a therapist, I support high-achieving, big-hearted people who want to create a life that feels as good as it looks. And that's what the show is all about, a space to learn from experts in the fields of psychology, relationships, business, and the arts who have paved the way. Are you ready to love yourself even more? Let's get into it. Welcome, Sarah and Danny, to the Love You Even More podcast. Sarah Lynne Thomas and Danny Yepez are both co-CEOs of Behold Retreats, which do psychedelic ayahuasca ceremonies. We're going to talk all about how they found themselves in this line of work, how they met, and then what they do at these retreats and what that looks like psychedelically, and sort of just the future of psychedelic healing, because that's just a huge part of healing these days. So many people have jumped on the bandwagon for like a while, but now a lot of new people are kind of coming on. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
Very kind of you. I love you even more.
Thanks. Love you guys even more. So you guys found this kind of like journey very separately and for different reasons. I want to know, Sarah, your journey first, and then Danny, I want to know yours because I know they're very different.
Yeah. So I came into plant medicine purely through curiosity. When I was a young woman, somebody explained to me that there is this beautiful little fungi that if you eat it, the world turns into a rainbow. And I said, that sounds amazing. How do I get some?
How old were you?
I was 14 years old the first time I did mushrooms. And then for about a year, I loved them. At the time, I would say it was for fun. Looking back, I would say I definitely think it helped develop the way in which I think, the way in which I'm a positive human, but also question everything. So I question everything, not in negativity or skepticism, but I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What makes sense for me? And so I was very happy that at a young age, I was introduced to beautiful psilocybin. And I followed that path for a while. And then there was career and college and career. And so I stopped. I went into finance, and which is a field of networking. Networking is drinking. And so I did a whole lot of that for a long time. Mm-hmm. And then psychedelics came back into my life. I think looking back, I would have said my spirit was like, you were out of alignment. This is not who you want to be. This is not the life you want to lead. At the time, I just thought I really enjoyed this in the past. And so I want to do it again. But looking back, I know that it was my soul was like, help me.
Absolutely.
And
well,
then
I was just going to say, like, when we're out of alignment in our lives, like it shows up, it really shows up, and things might like be functioning. It sounds like your career was going well, but it wasn't really right for you at all. So, okay. So you go back to mushrooms. You say, forget finance, enough.
And I heard this word ayahuasca, and just immediately the word resonated with me. And I didn't know why. Also, I thought it was curiosity. Again, Jess, I want to try everything. I have experienced a lot of the realm within the plant medicine. There's also animal medicine, fungi medicine. It kind of all is called plant medicine. And so once I heard that word, it just was in the back of my mind. And when I went to Peru, I actively sought it out to have my first ayahuasca ceremony. And then fast forward a few years, I traveled and I was going to make a big life shift. And I came to Costa Rica and met Danny Yepez, where what was of interest to me became a path for me. It was something that was born out of curiosity. And then I found this enormous amount of expansion and healing that these beautiful medicines provide for people. And I said, this is what I want to do with my life, is share this with other people and guide them in a way in which they are more conscious of all of the things they integrate it into their lives. And so that's how I came into this organization and this beautiful path.
I love that you were just like, this is fun. Let's do some more.
That sounds amazing. The world's in a rainbow.
I mean, yeah, it sounds very like light and curious and just like a really kind of like more fun path. And then Danny, I know yours is a very different story. So let me hear how you found yourself here.
Sure, absolutely. So in my case, I discovered this medicine and these medicines through encountering depression for the first time. I had
How old are you?
I was I'd say I was in my late, early 30s is where I was at that time. Prior to that, I went to military school when I was a kid. I kind of was raised in this little box formation. I was very highly skeptical individual. I had a hard time reading books because I needed to know who the author was and what the story was. So it was a process that once depression came knocking on my door, and I had no empathy for people with depression. That's something in your head. It's a click in the thing. And so in my case, it came knocking really hard on my door. And this came after a 20-year marriage turning into a separation that kind of felt what rock bottom was feeling like at the moment. So I had a friend who was already on the plant medicine path, and I was fortunate enough to have this friend of mine says, Danny, look, you're a controlling kind of guy. You're going to need 2 nights of this thing called ayahuasca. And I'm like, what is that? And so ultimately I'm in full trust. And of course, this is after I had, pretty much beaten the hard part of that depression state. I wanted to come out into a more open-minded way and explore different things that before I wouldn't even consider. Because in the past I was anti-pills, anti-drugs, all these things. So it was just out of my norm. And eventually ended up experiencing the beauty of plant medicine, specifically ayahuasca. And it was definitely what has shifted tremendously in my life. I'm a completely different version. I'd hope to say I'm within the highest version of myself for sure. And that's something that we all still strive to is constantly be the highest version of ourselves. So that was a really powerful path for me that kind of took this shape and had a 10-year sabbatical and dedication of just learning and exploring everything around plant medicines, just really dedicated into that world. And after a moment, I decided, okay, I can't no longer be just a bystander and just observe and watch what's going on. I need to be an active participant. And here I am.
Wow. It sounds like this is really completely overtaking your life in such a good way. Like you just were like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. Let's talk a little bit about ayahuasca, because I think people know it as like, oh, it happens with this group of people. People throw up and they have visions. But like, can you actually get into really what happens, like what it actually is and what like you're hoping to kind of like get out of it if you're trying it for the first time?
Yeah, I think I'll start because something just came into my mind as I was telling my story and Danny was telling his story, and then the name of your podcast, Love You More. And then I'll let Danny kind of get into the details of ayahuasca. And talking about visionary medicine or psychedelics to somebody who's never experienced it, if you try to explain what's happening within the visions or the psychedelic part, you sound crazy. And so generally, I think it's helpful to talk about the outcome. Right? Like if nobody in let's do an office environment. If no one in your office has ever done psychedelics and you try to talk about what you saw and what you feel, but instead they see that you are happier, then when they look at the result, then they're more interested in saying, what did you do? Yeah. And then they'll listen to the psychedelic part as opposed to talking about the experience itself. But I'm still open to talking about the experience and what happens in the ceremony. But I want to tell something that I have actually never said out loud before, and it's recorded, and I might embarrass you. Our first year, that we knew each other, both Danny and I are very strong human beings, and 2 strong human beings coming together can be challenging. And we were learning how to navigate communicating with each other. Am I going to move to Spain? Am I going to stay in Costa Rica? Is this what we want to do? And in one challenging moment, I think we had decided to call it quits. And we both agreed. And Danny said, but would you sit in ceremony with me one more time? And so we had a ceremony coming up, and we went to that ceremony. And it was maybe my 3rd or 4th ceremony ever. And in that experience was the time I realized this is why people do this. I got to see a view of Danny in a way in which I had never seen it before. I got to see how huge his heart is. I also saw how he's very patient for the long term, maybe not so patient for the short term, which we're the opposite. I'm not patient for the long term. I want things now. And after the ceremony, I loved him more. And so the name of your podcast, I Love You More. I feel like this is a common thing. A lot of times people come to retreats and ahead of time, either them or their partner are afraid that, say, for example, somebody gets more enlightened and they go home and they don't want their partner anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes the partner is afraid of that, when in fact, people grow in love. Once people mention love, I know that they have connected with the medicine. And so it really is the I love you more medicine.
Oh.
That embarrass you at all?
No, I loved it.
I was ready to leave.
No, I think that's so powerful because, God, I mean, it's so powerful on such a spiritual level of, you know, your souls are communicating on this like other level versus the human like body self communicating. Like the souls or like the energy of you both are communicating, and you realize that you love him even more. That's beautiful. So I want to know.
And that was 8.5 years ago.
Oh, congrats. So I want to know the psychedelic stuff. I want to know the like trippy stuff. I want to hear that because I've never done ayahuasca. I've actually really never done any drugs. Like I haven't really at all. But I'm so fascinated by everything that's coming out right now. So tell me, especially since I'm the guinea pig, tell me what it's like to like start the ceremony and sort of like how it all works. And then like kind of what people do see and experience besides the throwing up, because we know that happens.
Talk about that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's backtrack a little bit in the understanding of ayahuasca itself. Yes. And I'd like to say ayahuasca is a technology. And, you know, it's what we do in our retreats, it's ancient work. There's nothing new here. This isn't just a fad that came around. For me, it's beautiful to witness over the more than 16 years that I've been already in this level of work, how it's gone from a taboo to something that now it's prominent and it's people are now paying direct attention to. But, you know, if you ever wondered why a Buddhist monk surrenders all of its earthly possessions to dedicate themselves to meditation, you realize that ayahuasca and this level of technology that it can do allows for a quick access to an altered state of consciousness that can allow you to biohack into your life, right? And so in a very simplistic manner, these are what entheogenic plant medicines are. Entheogens is a Greek word, it's a combination of words that's called one with God. So when you're able to tap into entheogen plants, these are all plant teachers. So they're all variations of all of them that ultimately activate that pineal gland and primarily secrete the dimethyltryptamine that you're looking for, which is what I would say the antenna to source, to God. And it's the aspect of what these plants can do. So when you're looking at ayahuasca, for instance, I would say that ayahuasca is several days of brewing these two primary plants. One is the Banistoriopsis caapi, which is the caapi vine, the actual ayahuasca vine, in conjunction with the plant or the leaf from what happens to be the coffee family. And it's the chacruna leaf itself. And that's where the DMT comes from. So both combination allows for the brew with just several days of cooking and reduction, all boiled down to this one little cup that you end up drinking. Now, this little one cup has trapped what I would call from the root system of the earth, all of that knowledge and wisdom, ancient knowledge and wisdom from the earth itself, that I would call all the information and data from the earth wide web trapped into this little cup that you now ingest. And when it goes into your system and the bacteria and everything that goes, that symbiosis that takes place allows for that release of information and the access of these altered state of consciousness that allows you to process many things in life. So it is a powerful entheogen. And again, there's many variations of plant medicines, psilocybin, and all of them that have a DMT compound in them. And they allow for immediate access into these realms that really can can biohack your system into whatever it is that you're looking to achieve in that particular, whether it's healing or expansion, right? Sometimes they're both combined, but they both have those two verticals there.
So when people sit down, do they have to have like an intention of where they want to go?
Yes, and maybe. So
Okay.
I talk about intention personally, and then Danny goes in with no intention ever. And so for me, intention has the purpose of keeping us focused as we show up. So as most people know, ayahuasca isn't easy. That doesn't mean that it's hard. It could be challenging. Climbing Mount Everest is challenging. If we prepare, it's a little bit easier. But no matter what, it's going to be challenging. It can be physically enduring, right? It's a 6-hour ceremony. Our brains move more quickly. And so it can be intellectually exhausting as well. You might feel like you went through a marathon. However, the intention, say I'm halfway through and I'm tired, my intention is what will keep me going. And so for me, for people that will have a purpose, there's a beauty in that you might get it. You might not get whatever your intention is, but you held it so that you continue. I'll use a non-plant medicine example. I went into a Temescal and I had a very strong intention. It was one for my health. And it wasn't life or death, but it was life or life. And it was very important to me. And it was the hottest Temescal. So Temescal is like a sweat lodge, an indigenous sweat lodge that we do on retreat. And it was the hottest Temescal I had ever been in. But my intention was strong. And I sat there the entire time and I participated. And when it was over, everybody but one person left. And that person was on the ground with its head on the side, like trying to get air. And the person hosting the Temescal looked at me and said, "What was that?" And I said, "This was important to me. It was important to me." So it showed up. The next Temescal I went to, and I was working that day. And so I ran right in and they go, "What is your intention?" I was like, to be the best version of myself, which is true, but I wasn't holding that intention. And so I was the for. And so for me, intention, it's for the power of we are participating with a very intelligent being, ayahuasca. She may give us our intention and she may not, but it helps us show up. And then Danny never goes in with an intention.
Yeah. I mean, we have our retreats are multiple ceremonies, and they're multiple ceremonies for a reason. We know that having multiple ceremonies are going to work. We know the importance of it is for someone. Primarily, the biggest commodity in someone's life is time. And for them to donate that time to themselves and to us is really important and valuable. So making sure that they achieve what they've come for is critically important to us. So having multiple ceremonies is important. And I often suggest for people to, an intention is it's almost like having a roadmap of a destination, right? And what happens from here to there has a lot of variables. So it's good to have those intentions. As a matter of fact, it's already in your subconscious. And this intelligent being, as Sarah mentions, already knows. It taps right into your subconscious. It easily accesses that information. And usually our intention comes sometimes kind of masked in with some of the ego. This is what I want. And so I often suggest to people to come into a humble state of receiving, right? So our first night, I often recommend is just come in to receive humbly. You are here to learn from such an intelligent source. And we call her Mother Ayahuasca, for instance, or the grandmother. So come in to receive, and that will allow for you to shape your next ceremony, right? Your following ceremony. And of course, then you can bring the intention out if it already hasn't surfaced within the ceremony itself. And then ultimately the power within for us to command, because we are at a biohacking stage. So that third ceremony, for instance, it's a powerful one to dictate to at a cellular level and give commands and instructions to ourselves, to the universe, to the higher self of us. And of course, that shapes an incredible, powerful retreat that gives so much information, wisdom, and guidance. Our retreats for ayahuasca is called the Guide Inside. So for people looking for purpose, for looking for a pathway or a deeper understanding, not only of themselves, but life overall in the universe, well, this is the right place to be.
So does ayahuasca or psilocybin do anything, like you said, it was changing at the cellular level? What do we know about it, what it's actually doing to us physically?
So on the physiological level, and this is, we call this some of the great mystery that takes place, because there's a lot of unknown and variables that are still even being researched as of today, what is actually taking place. Go ahead. Yeah, I saw you jump in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah, I was like, there is just some framework behind this, that I have a Western upbringing and a Western mind. And so when I want to know something, I need it explained to me in that same context for me to understand it. And this isn't Western medicine. It's not Eastern medicine either. It's Southern medicine. And so the framework behind that feels mysterious because of the way in which I know science and data, and I want facts. And so a lot of people are saying science is now catching up with what people already knew. They just didn't have the language, the logos for it. Once we went from Eastern philosophy to Western philosophy, our language quadrupled. And we started to think, I think, therefore I am. And the East would say, no, if you quit thinking, then you are, then you're being. And so I think that is kind of helpful to explain what exactly is happening. I'm not sure Western medicine or science has come up with what exactly is happening. In the brain, they absolutely have. I think as far as the body, it's more of I felt this way before, I've had tests before, and now I have tests afterwards, and I feel better afterwards without the explanation of what is happening in between.
And sometimes that's all you need. I mean, if you feel better, like, okay, great. That's what we were going for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a level of knowing that takes place when you come into ceremony, and of course, a lot of issues get resolved within the ceremony itself internally. Many of the issues that get resolved tend to be very earthly in nature, right? So we're resolving issues within family relations with ourselves, with nature, with food. All of these things start to shape up in a ceremony because there's an enormous amount of thought processes that go through when you're sitting in ayahuasca. And sometimes you'll even question relevance, like, why is this issue or why is this person surfacing for me during this ceremony? And you may not have an answer right there and then. It could take a whole entire retreat and you may not have an answer. But we think of it as like two neurons sparking on two sides of the brain. And it could be weeks or months later that you've left the retreat and the two connect and the aha moment kicks in. And that's the reason we ask for people to journal and to write, to keep this very present, because some of that information and relevancy comes into place down the line.
I think that also goes along the lines of where I talked about intention, and then some people might not get it. Some people might not get their intention because they thought that they needed XYZ for expansion, or they thought this was what was holding them back, and it is something totally different. And so I know you're asking about specific ceremonies, so I'll give you a personal story that is that can lay some groundwork behind what is it like to be in ceremony. First, we do traditional ceremonies, and so that means the medicine is traditionally it is by a shaman or a medicine man that has spent decades or more in the jungle. We have traditional ceremonies, and so we all go in together, and we can talk about the preparation because that's really important to us. I think it's important to everybody, but Behold specifically, we spend a lot of time with each person, every single one that comes in, on how to prepare to get the most out of ceremony, as well as we can talk about the purge, the throw up if you want to. Preparation also makes that graceful is okay. And throwing up is not a requirement. Not everybody throws up during the ceremony. So we're in ceremony. I'm in ceremony. I have had 2 cups and I am loving it. People forget that because they hear the challenging part. It's a ceremony. I love ceremonies. They are joyous. They are joyful. They are compassionate and love. And the music is outstanding. And I'm in a really good place just loving it. And then something dark is just kind of in my upper left. And at that moment, I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm doing this. Like, Sarah, this is exactly what you coach people. If you see something dark, go look at it, and go look at it with love and compassion and see what it is. And so I looked at it, and it took 5 minutes, and it said, hey, Sarah, do you recognize that you have a pattern where you don't build anything with somebody that you love? I go, no, I did not see that pattern. And it goes, it's because you're afraid if the relationship doesn't work out, you'll lose everything. And then I go, okay. And then it goes, and I'll tell you why. And it brought me back to my teenage years when my parents got a divorce, and they were lovely. They never fought in front of us, but my mom within 2 years sold her business. I won't go through some of the details of that, but it subconsciously, I had no clue I learned this lesson, but subconsciously I learned to be independent. And that was it within the ceremony. It said, did you know this about yourself? I said, no. It said, here's why. And I said, okay. And then I went right back into loving ceremony, into the music, the vibration within my body. And then the next day I got to analyze it. Is this true? And I looked back, you went into finance because you can do it alone. You traveled alone. Even though I was working with Danny, I still had another full-time job to make sure that if anything ever happened, I could fully support myself. I had never even heard of the word interdependent. I thought the opposite of dependent was independent and vice versa. And so because I am me and a logical thinker, I made a T-chart, pro and con. Do you want to go all in? Because it could be true. It could be true that if I devote a shared partnership with Danny, that if our relationship didn't work out, I might lose everything because we're on this path together and he started it. We live in Costa Rica. That's not my home. And then I said, well, is it worth it? And so I did all the plus and minus. And I also knew the mental construct that I was building, that I will be okay no matter what happens to me. And I will continue that way. And so I go, yes. And I'm all in. And within a month, I let go of that job and I was all in what I'm doing today. And so that took 5 minutes in ceremony, right? And so that's what can happen in ceremony, is we see something that we would have not have known otherwise. My normal state of consciousness would not have come up with that. Right. It needed to thin out my subconscious and conscious, that veil in between got thinner, and the ayahuasca presented it to me.
Right. I think I really love that you guys are using the term Mother Ayahuasca, because it does feel like the spirit of ayahuasca is really like coming through and like guiding. And that's exactly what it sounds like it did. And with like different, ceremonies, can you have multiple like realizations like this, or is it usually one main one, or how does it just depend on the day?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like Danny said, sometimes so much is happening on different levels that we walk out and we don't, with our prefrontal cortex, know what happened. We might feel better, or the connections may happen later that day, or as you're speaking to it, or a week later or a month later. My biggest change in my life happened 1 month later. I left the ceremony thinking, it was my second ceremony with, not with us. And I walked out thinking, well, I guess that didn't work. And 1 month later, unequivocally, something happened. And then there's also ceremonies where it feels like what people call a download after download after download.
Yeah.
It's really infinite, really, if you look at it. I mean, as I was mentioning, a lot of the first aspects of when you're working with ayahuasca initially, it's, you resolve just all the human aspects that are kind of loose and dangling in your life, and, clean the vessel and get everything in life and organized. And then this is where I like to say it gets exciting, because that's where expansion comes in, and expansion is infinite. Like you can reach realms far beyond what we can probably comprehend and even discuss here verbally.
We can discuss it.
I like it. So I think it's something that brings an enormous amount of ancient knowledge and wisdom to the forefront of our society, and it's something that's kind of well needed today. And it's not about coming back to ayahuasca. We make sure that we empower people. Sometimes all you need is just this one retreat or one night of ayahuasca, and that is it. There's no need to come back, because you have everything. You have clear guidance already. And this is what ayahuasca does. It provides you a clarity, a grounding, a recenter. I would call an attunement, like a fine instrument that gets tuned properly, and you're attuned again. Now, most people come to us because they're either finding, they're coming from a toxic environment and they need this attunement to come in place. And then you get all the messages, because I always say ayahuasca gives you 3 things: awareness, awareness, awareness. That's it. And then from there, you adjust in your life, right? What it is you're going to be adjusting into it. If you go ahead and don't adjust, and if you go back to the toxic life and behavior that you had, then what do you think is going to happen? You're going to end up back where you came from, and ultimately needing some realignment in place there again.
I was just thinking, I wonder if I'm sure there have been many people like this, where they have the ceremony, they get all of the downloads that they needed, and they wake up and they're like, I don't want to do this though. This is hard and scary, and I don't want to change, just like what you said. And it just...
And I think that's where it's really great to couple with a therapist like yourself or a coach, so that you have that support after the retreat.
Yeah, I think the
accountability there at a minimum.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think this is the essence of working in this field, where we can combine ancient wisdom and practice with therapeutic work in modern life today. It's like the perfect combination, because you're involving a technology that has been around for millennia, and you're in a modern society that needs to adapt to this. And so that combination plays fundamentally important. This is, for us, why we offer a 7-week program, which has 3 weeks of prior preparation, online preparation to get ready for this. 1 week of what I would call boots on the ground work, really, where the hard work is taking place. And then, of course, 3 more weeks of online integration and somatic work that takes place. So I think that aspect is fundamentally important to really kind of frame the level of work and get the most out of it.
That is excellent. I've never heard of something like that. Usually it's just, I went there for the weekend, did the ayahuasca trip, came home, my life is different, but also I can see how if you're not able to integrate it with somebody to help you, or a coach or a therapist, it could be lost, almost like a really intense stream. And then you just kind of stop thinking about it and you start forgetting perhaps. And it just feels like you're just right back where you started.
Yeah. The word integration is new to people. I think a lot of people, especially in corporate environments, know the word implement. And so say you read a book, you could read Napoleon Hill's the How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you didn't then start genuinely trying to connect with human beings, as it mentions in the first chapter, you just read a book and that was it. You didn't implement anything in your life. And so it's the same. Somebody could tell me they read 52 books this year. That sounds amazing. What did you integrate this year? And so people that go through ceremony after ceremony, or you may have found this in your work with clients where they have a path and then you get on the phone again and they didn't do anything. And you're like,
that happens a lot.
Right? Like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, nothing. And that's why you have no results. So it's the implement, integrate, empower, embold, embody.
Yeah, no, I'm also kind of thinking about like having a past life you could not necessarily a past life experience, but like a near-death experience, because it's so similar from what I'm kind of gathering. It's like you get to connect with Source or Mother Ayahuasca. You get all of this information and it's life-changing, right? It truly is life-changing. But if you come back and you don't do anything, it's just like this life-changing moment. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of a near-death experience of someone who may not like believe it. Maybe they like kind of like, what am I trying to say? Just sort of like think it away, you know, like they just kind of lose what it was. And they're like, oh no, it wasn't that important. But yeah, the integration is huge because, you know, we all can have like epiphanies and like aha moments throughout our life. But yeah, if you're not really like writing that down or integrating it or both, it kind of like goes right back out. And I've really noticed that with myself, with others. Like you got to be really intentional with the information you're being given. Because I mean, we're all channeling, like whether we believe it or not, or we know it or not, like you're all channeling information, and it's there for you to have if you want it, but it's up to you to keep it.
You gotta listen.
Yeah, and very well said. I mean, our brains always go back to that default mode system, right? So the ego just kicks in and just doesn't allow for the channeling to come through. It's the ego wanting to get into that. And it's interesting you mentioned the NDE aspect of near-death experience. And, you know, we work with various anthogenic plant medicines, but one of them is the BUFO, which is the 5-MeO DMT experience. And that is one of the strongest antigens that you're going to find right now on the planet is a 5-MeO DMT experience. And it's a short experience. It's a short-lived experience. It's generally an experience that can last anywhere from 20 minutes to maybe 40 minutes of that experience. But it's described as when you're ready to die, be reborn, and meet your creator. Wow. That is a 5-MeO DMT experience. And it's very profound because it's, you know, one of the things that you achieve sometimes with these entheogenic plant medicines. And by the way, 5-MeO is what we call a peak experience. So it's a complete ego dissolution, right? It's all of a sudden that ego self gets dissolved right away. So it's it's a powerful aspect to kind of see that dissolution of what we think and who we think we are, and completely disappears, and then we come back around.
It's very interesting.
I think the word ego death has become popular, and so the word ego dissolution got mentioned. And in ayahuasca, this process is one in which we can actively participate in. Ayahuasca will start showing us the masks that we wear and some of the roles that we have. And if we don't have that role or don't have that mask, what are we and who are we? And we can actively participate in seeing those layers come off. And now the layers come on, after ceremony and the next day, we can actively decide what to put back on. We're going to go home. We're going to go back to the office. We recognize that some masks are required in certain areas. That one's debatable, I know, but in the 3D world that we're living in, some of those masks are required. The ego death, that word, I think, holds more true with Bufo. Bufo is one where the time is 1 minute from the time you ingest the medicine until you are there. And so it might feel a little bit more like an ego death. But I think the real word is disillusionment. You get to see who is the spirit, who is your spirit, who are you without all of these masks on. And it can be a really beautiful and therapeutic process.
That is so intense. I think you'd have to be really ready for that. Because an ego death, I mean, I have experienced ego deaths before, and it is hard. It's also very, it's very disorienting. You're truly like, who am I? What is this body? It's very disoriented. So I would imagine if people have some issues going on, maybe just wait on that one. Just wait. Come in real healthy, ready.
That's where that preparation is real important, to take the time to go through the process and the stages of ayahuasca. She works on our body and our emotions and our mind and our heart. And that body part, for example, if we follow the dieta very well, then that body part doesn't take as long. If we don't follow the dieta at all, then the first night we're going to go through some cleanup. And so it's the same with life. The more we put into it, the more we get out of it.
Okay. I also want to segue with that on the aspect. I want to come back around on the throw up part, right? The purge. I think, this isn't discussed enough. And it's funny how people can get so caught up around this whole process of coming into doing ayahuasca. And then their one big sticker is the throwing up or the purge aspect. And I often say to our guests that come in, I'm like, how many times did you not just be hugging that toilet bowl and you didn't get anything out of it when you went out drinking? Here you have an opportunity to be in an element of an altered state and get the most out of it. But it's really two different things. So I think people get caught up thinking that the experience of that throw up in that toilet bowl is what they're going to relive again. And it has nothing to do. We call it a purge because it's a release. It's a somatic release and relief. And what Sarah was saying about the preparation is important because it's not an axiomatic aspect of that you're going to drink ayahuasca and you're going to throw up. It's all relative to how your vessel is. What we're trying to do with the dieta, with the preparation is we're trying to bring the alchemy of your body to be as equally as it is for the indigenous communities where this plant comes from. So it works perfectly in a perfect aspect within your body and the medicine. So that preparation is important. The cleaner you come into it, of course, the less of that feel of purge you're going to need. But it is a completely different sensation. People really, it's funny. There's a high level of bonding that takes place in the groups with people that come together and purge together kind of thing. But it is a powerful experience and it's a beautiful one. It also allows for people to take and through their ceremonies and release and let go of things that no longer serve them can be taken place somatically within that purge itself. So it brings a lot more value than what people think. People dismiss it as such. So,
and a lot of people purge just through tears, a whole bunch of tears. It doesn't feel like crying, like an emotional crying. Sometimes it just feels like pouring of tears. Some people shake. I'm a shaker. Danny's a shaker as well. To me, I love it. It feels like all of my cells are vibrating. Yeah. So purging happens in different ways. And sometimes it's throwing up.
This is all very interesting. My last question is, what do you think the future holds for ayahuasca, psilocybin, all of our psychedelic drugs that are starting to come into more of the spotlight?
Yeah. So I'll go first because I think you might have a more thorough answer to close with. In the 60s and 70s, there was a psychedelic revolution. And Danny frequently says, where do you think we would be at a society today if that revolution continued? And I think our society would have been a lot more beautiful, a lot more conscious, a lot more thoughtful. Yeah. And so that's what I'm hoping to see. Danny also started an organization called Sovereignty Alliance. And one of the things that they do is they plant the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna bush, because we also really care about sustainability. Mm-hmm. So we have friends, they're saying this is getting too popular. And I think, this is medicine that really helps people. And so let's work on sustainability, the people with loud voices to lead the way and how to do it properly, where we're taking care of the traditional ceremony, we're taking care of the medicine man and families and all of the things. And so I'm really excited about where this is headed and where this is going. I'll add a little caveat. I think some of these medicines can be done in a clinical setting. Like I love seeing what they're doing with psilocybin mushrooms, especially at near death, like near end of life processes. I am a huge advocate that ayahuasca shouldn't be done in a clinical setting, which I know that back being able to study it in scientific data, but I'll be an advocate for that, to keep it in the ceremony.
I would agree with that. Danny.
Yeah, this is, these medicines are ancient, they've been around way longer than we have been. And it's, I'm always a little bit concerned when society is trying to come in, they're trying to monetize, they want the easy fix. And it's like, sometimes I feel like there's a nightmare of me visualizing ayahuasca intravenously and people just coming in to do this intravenously with no burden. So it's, it's exactly like, not the way to go, right? But where the path of this is going is, I'd like to remain as hopeful, right? It's really a tricky one, right? We lived through the renaissance of that psychedelic era where it was just growing tremendously, and then all of a sudden it just got shut out. Fortunately, I've gone through a stage where it's gone from taboo to going mainstream, where we are now, and gaining a lot more popularity. And I think it's important to also recognize the difference between when we call a substance a drug and when we call it a medicine. And I think that deserves some clear distinctions around that, because drugs are I would say, are considered to hook you, right? A drug is something that hooks you and is also demanding more of you. That drug wants you to come back to it. A medicine is something that heals and takes care and doesn't create the addiction aspect. So fortunately, the psychedelic substances out there are non-addictive, and thus we don't call it necessarily drugs, but use the term medicines. And I think the pathway of what's going on, it seems quite positive. There's a lot of fast things that are happening. So there might be a fast track on this and where we're seeing things. So the future is quite optimistic when it comes to that.
I'm just happy we're living in this age where this is actually available, and it's just expanding and growing. And you guys have such a lovely story and explained this so well. This was just very enlightening. I mean, it sounds like going to a treat of yours would just be so fun. And you just come out of...
love to see you in Costa Rica.
I would love to go to Costa Rica and do that. Well, speaking of, tell people where you guys are in Costa Rica and how they can find you. And by the way, all of your links will be in the show notes. So guys, you can just go click.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
More explanation is better.
For sure. So we are not only in Costa Rica, we're also in Mexico and Portugal, and we work with various antigens, psilocybin, the bufo 5-MeO, of course, and ayahuasca is our three primary medicines that we offer. And then, of course, you can reach us through just searching on Behold Retreats. And we go through a very rigorous process of onboarding and generating invitations for people to come through and making sure that the readiness and clinical evaluation is there for having a safe environment container for them.
Good. That is good news.
Yeah.
Is there any last thoughts that you guys have that you'd want to share?
I think we could end where we begin with I love you more. I love you more, everybody.
Aw.
I love you more. I love this name.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, you guys. This has been lovely. I love this conversation. This is really fascinating. I think there's a huge future for this, and I'm just happy people are getting better in ways that aren't so traditional these days. You know, we're expanding in all of these beautiful ways, and you guys are helping lead that. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
You
Thank
too.
you for your
Thank you.
stuff.
You're helping spreading this word, and it's quite important. Thank you for that. Quite
Thank you,
needed.
guys.
Thank you.